Welcome to the Money, Mindset and Business podcast, where we talk about all things money, mindset and business with real life stories and real life people. Let's get into the episode. And welcome to the Money, Mindset and Business podcast. Today we are chatting to Hils, who is a business alchemist. And I'm really excited to hear all of her story and journey and insights on her life, her journey with money mindset. So Hils, please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. So yeah, as you said, I'm Hils, the business alchemist, and I'm a strategic business and marketing mentor and Uplevel coach. So what does that mean? It means I am essentially a business coach, and I work with mostly women doing transformational work. So I work with coaches and health and wellbeing practitioners, healers, and that kind of thing, who work online. They want to get more clients, they want to make more money with integrity, but they really struggle with the strategy, creating the right offers, pricing, and all of the marketing and sales stuff, as well as those inner blocks that come up. So I coach and guide them how to really ignite their gifts, step confidently into their expertise, really uncover and own their soul-aligned niche, up-level their business, and get strategic so they can do their best work, feel really fulfilled, get amazing results for their clients, make the impact that they want, and obviously achieve their business and income goals. Because we all want to do.
That sounds amazing, absolutely amazing. So obviously we're here today to talk about money mindset and your journey with money mindset. So you've said that you've obviously got your own business now. You're a business coach and you help people with sales and marketing, and basically being fantastic, like we all know that they are. So where would you say that you came from at the start of your journey into like entrepreneurship and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I suppose in relation to sort of money mindset, I mean, I had never heard of it. Like, I didn't know it was a thing. It wasn't a phrase that I was aware of. I grew up fairly poor, working class, kind of vaguely. I think my parents sort of dragged us up the middle class somewhere in my childhood. We were originally from the northeast, and then we moved to Buckinghamshire, so we were like ducks out of water, in a very middle class kind of area. But for me, I sort of then grew up with that background. But we had very little when I was young. We never had a lot of money. We never had extras. We didn't have we didn't have foreign expensive holidays. I think the first flight I took was like when I was 19. We were quite frugal. Mum and dad were very much make do and mend, that sort of post-war kind of mindset. And that's what I grew up with. And I had a career. I went to university. I did business studies at university. I had a marketing career, did quite well, lived in London, and thought I was doing okay. Started my business and then it was like, oh, why is it really hard to earn money? And why is it really hard to, set prices and talk about money and do sales? And, it was all this stuff was like, wow, I never knew it was going to be hard, because you don't have to do any of that stuff when you're employed, apart from, ask for a raise maybe, or kind of negotiate promotion. But yeah, you never have to do any of that stuff otherwise. So that was definitely a bit of a wake up call, I suppose, of just like, oh my God, I had no idea that I would be doing so much, I suppose, inner work, and that stuff would come up so much when I started my business.
Yeah. So in what terms of like emotions, if you could place me on Hils starting out this career in entrepreneurship, and I'm tackling all of these money issues, what were those emotions that were going through you at the time?
Oh gosh, it's really hard to sort of remember emotions, isn't it? I think when I started, I was just so excited, so passionate about, wanting to, so my background is marketing, but I got really into personal growth work, and I retrained in various different personal growth modalities. And I personally had some big shifts, and hadn't been feeling very purposeful, and then wanted to start my business, which felt much more purposeful. So I was very naive, and very excited and very passionate and very just just thought it was going to be quite easy, I think, like really just was like, yeah, like I know how to do marketing. Like I just had no idea really. And I think most people when we start are pretty naive. So yeah, it's hard to remember how I felt. I think mostly I felt excited, but definitely within that first couple of years, there was a lot of struggles, a lot of challenges, a lot of tears, a lot of I can't do this, a lot of throwing my toys out of the pram, a lot of picking up bits and pieces of freelance work. I had tenants in my house to kind of make ends meet. There was a lot of doing stuff that I didn't particularly want to do in order to just kind of be able to keep going and trying to build the business. It was definitely pretty tricky at first.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds it, but what kind of came into my head while you were talking then is the resilience that you had and the determination in the fact that you were, right, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And I think that's quite powerful, because a lot of people won't have that sort of resilience, and outside of the box thinking. It was like, okay, so the business isn't earning, how can I get some money to make it work? So where do you think that came from?
The resilience?
Yeah.
God, I don't know. I feel like I've always been pretty resilient. Yeah. And then, in all the different personal growth work that I trained in, obviously you have your own experience as you're doing professional training. So yeah, I had a lot of, I did NLP training, EFT, and a body of women's work called the Art of Feminine Presence, which was very powerful. It's kind of subtle, powerful kind of energy work, but it was very much, it helped me find my center and find my groundedness. And I do think that was a really good, grounding to kind of have, that it's like, no matter what life throws at me, I kind of know I'm okay. And I've kind of got that deep belief that I will get through it and it will change, and that, fundamentally I'm okay, and, all of that. And I think without having done that work and that training, that I might not have been maybe quite so resilient with it. Because I think mindset is good, it's very powerful, but I do think we need the deeper kind of, hard to sort of explain, but that deeper energy work and that deeper presence and that deeper sort of holding kind of internally, that we can get from, doing other work than just mindset.
Yeah. I mean, I completely get that. I mean, my journey myself, it started with mindset, but mindset will only take you so far. You have to get to the way I see it is to knowing.
Yes.
This eternal knowing, I am going to be okay. Everything is happening the way it's supposed to happen. And having that pure knowing makes everything else just irrelevant in a way.
Yeah.
This is really strange, but it's very powerful.
Yeah, it definitely helps you kind of weather the storm, doesn't it? Of just like, it's like, okay, it's stormy up there, but deep down, I know that there's nothing nothing changes. Like I feel fine, and I feel okay. And in that work, I did a lot of shadow work. So I don't know if you've come across much shadow work. I think shadow work's really, really powerful as well. That just really helped me, I don't know, just sort of come out of myself and just have that kind of untouchable sort of feeling somehow of just, you can't get at me. I can't, I don't know. It's just this sort of more unshakable kind of level of confidence. I think.
My coach, I think, calls this conviction. So it's having pure conviction, and it's an unshakable conviction in, I'm here and this is what I'm here to do. Nobody and nothing is going to stop me.
And I think being really purposeful as well, like when your work feels really aligned and, like you say, this is what I'm here to do, and you're very clear in that, I think that helps massively, because Otherwise, of course, you're probably gonna feel wobbly if you're like, oh, I don't really know. And I've definitely had my moments of that. Like I started doing personal growth, and I did that for sort of 3 years, and then I shifted my niche to do more business and marketing coaching, and I bring a lot of personal growth in as well. But there was a lot of soul searching within that of like, do I want to keep doing that? Do I want to do a bit? Do I want to do business coaching? So there's definitely been a journey with really following, the inner guidance, and I have quite a spiritual practice, and that was a big part of my journey of just connecting with deeper parts of me, maybe with the universe or whatever you want to call that. And yeah, being able to tune in again, and I think from that place we can be more aligned with, yes, this is what I'm here to do, this is what feels right. And then when we feel solid in that, then I think we're more unshakable.
Yeah. I mean, my next question was going to be, where do you think the turning point was with the money mindset? But I think from what you've said, it was an accumulation of the work that you've done on yourself has taken you up those steps on going, yes, I am worthy, I am, and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think it's been more incremental, sort of shifts, if you like. I've definitely noticed I had a bigger shift kind of earlier this year, but otherwise I think it's been fairly incremental. But that was I was doing some money mindset exercise, and what I uncovered was that I realized I'd made some sort of a vow, like some sort of a decision when I left a job that I didn't like to go self-employed. And I think I sort of unconsciously decided that I cared more about doing something I loved and less about the money. And I think I told myself, I don't care about the money. I just want to do what I love. And this was, that was like 9 years ago that I went self-employed. And this was earlier this year that I uncovered, and I was like, oh, hang on a minute. I think that's still playing out to an extent. That I'd somehow said, I don't care if I make money or not. I just want to do what I love. And I was like, what the actual, I do care about me. Like, hang on a minute, I'm going to revoke that. And I worked on clearing it, and I immediately felt a shift in my body when I cleared it. And it was like, yeah, I started to do things differently, because there's the other thing about, belief work and things like that, and money mindset work, is that it's not magic. I would say it isn't magic. You can just change your mindset and things magically happen. You start doing things differently, right? So I started from that moment, I started doing things differently. I had a different focus. I started taking different actions. I started basically selling more. Like I definitely had been a bit hesitant, around the selling, and a bit, just a bit soft with it and a bit passive. And I definitely was taking more action towards selling, more calls to action, more kind of getting people on calls, like just focused more on how am I bringing in the money, like literally making sure I was making those offers, like really not just putting myself out there with my marketing, but putting myself out there and leading people to the offers, which was just a little bit of a different kind of focus. And I think March or April, I had like the best month I've had without launching. And it was really quick. Like that was literally the next month. I had like the best month yet without doing a launch or anything, just from one-to-one clients. So yeah, it was really interesting that I feel like it's a kind of a never-ending journey. I mean, there's part of me that's like, I really want it to end at some point and not to have to keep working on money stuff, But it's like I kind of like the personal growth as well, and it's more nuanced, and that there's more subtleties and things like that. But I feel like it's I'm still working on it. I have good months, bad months, good days, bad days. It still can, and I still get affected by things. I think we all do. If you, I don't know, somebody doesn't say yes, or like things like that. I mean, I'm not too bad, but if a launch doesn't work or something, it's really hard not to take that personally. And I think we all do that to an extent. And yeah. So yeah, I'm constantly uncovering like more and more kind of subtle thoughts and beliefs and stuff around around the money and the money mindset. So it's fascinating, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we always think of it as like an onion. You peel back a layer. You're like, yeah, I'm done, and then you realise, oh crap, there's another one. There's another one. Peel that one back, and then something else reveals itself. Because I mean, you'll probably know this anyway. The subconscious will only let you deal with what you're ready to deal with. Yeah. So maybe that money mindset belief that you released earlier on this year, you're only now ready to release it. At this point in your entrepreneurial journey. But I mean, thinking back on that, if somebody's listening now and they are like you and I, we like they want to make a difference, they want to help people. That's the whole mission behind what they're doing. How saying you this held you what, but this belief was with you for what, 9 odd years? If you could advise somebody who's on their entrepreneurial journey earlier on than you are now, how would you ask? What am I trying to say here? What have you got to say to them in terms of realigning that belief? Because obviously, I wouldn't say it held you back for 9 years, but it may have held you back for 9 years, and you could have been a lot further along. So obviously, us being on this self-development journey, we teach people what we've learned on our journey. So I'm just kind of wondering whether there's anything that one of the listeners might be able to gain some insight on from what you've been through.
I definitely think awareness is the first step, isn't it? With all of this stuff, you can't change what you're not aware of. You've got to become aware of the blocks, the money memories, the painful things, the whatever it is, you know, the actions that you're not taking. And it's something that I see a lot with my clients. Like they want to do what they want to do, right, from a place of passion and care and love and all of that. And we're service led people, right? We want to help, but if you're not making money out of it, it's not a business, right? You'll basically have a very expensive hobby or a charity, right? And it's like you have to at some point be like fix something around that mindset. If you're just like, and a lot of people say like, just do what you love and the money will come. That rarely happens, I think, unless you've got to get strategic. You've got to be strategic about how you run your business, about how you do your marketing, about how you sell. And it can all be done aligned. It can all be done in a really authentic way. But I think we can't ignore those inner things and the beliefs and, you know, just the different things that we come up, the inner critic, the things that we tell ourselves, because they will hold us back. They will hold us back from achieving whatever it is that we want to achieve. And it's not that money, you know, for most of us, I think money isn't the number one reason why we do what we do. It's not, but it can't be bottom of the pile either. You know, I think we have to kind of bump it up the list of, you want to serve people, you want to make an impact, but if you're not doing that in a sustainable way, i.e. you're not paying yourself properly, then you're not going to be able to do that for very long, and you're going to either get burnt out or, you know, you're going to lose your house or starve or something. So it's like you have to make the money important as well, but not at the detriment to the service. So I just think it's a balance, isn't it, between that, how can I serve and then how can I receive, you know, with that. So yeah, I definitely know I've got a receiving issue, let's say. And it's really interesting. I kind of hosted a woman that came and ran a menopause retreat day in my community, and there was like 20 women in the circle. And at one point, the conversation and the circle sharing came to, she asked the question, who here finds it easy to receive? Nobody put their hand up. And then one woman very trepidatorily sort of put her hand up and went, I think I'm okay at it. That was almost every single woman basically knew they had a bit of a block around receiving, right? And it's like, if we can't receive love and support and attention and all of these things, then money's just the same thing. Like, I always think, like, I just think money it's almost like what we did or didn't receive around love and attention when we're young kind of seems to translate into how we are with money. That it's like if we're not used to receiving really good quality love and attention, then it's actually might feel really hard later in life of, how do you receive money? And I'm not saying money and love is the same thing, but I think there's just a relationship between that of like how we were, not treated, but just how we were received and how we were able to receive when we were young. Anyway, that's something I've noticed definitely is a receiving thing.
That makes sense.
And like expanding my capacity to receive, and that's, I know a few other money mindset people talk about that, but it is, I think, a lot of how can I feel safer receiving more and holding more. So that's definitely a bit of a practice still.
I mean, actually, when I was doing some research around generational poverty, what part of what I read was you get the children that had all the material things that are now craving love and attention, and then you have the children that had all of the love and attention, who I wouldn't say are craving money, but have a disaligned like relationship with money, but the opposite way from the other ones. But either way, it impacts you when you're grown up, depending on whether you had all the love or all the money. So what you've just said there is exactly what I researched into it.
And everywhere in between, like there's that book. Your parents will mess you up, whatever. And as a parent, it's like it's a hard pill to swallow, isn't it? Of like, I'm really doing my best not to mess him up, but obviously we will a little bit, because that's just our journey. And we all have a journey. But I think as well, it's interesting you said about like generational. I think something that I've realised a lot kind of in the last few years is like for women, having our own business and having even a career and work that we love and financial success is relatively new for us still, right? It's only in the last 50 years or so that women in the UK have been allowed to own property without having a man sign it off and agree to it and have our own bank accounts, right? Like it sounds a bit mad. Anyone younger than probably 50 is going like, what? That's insane. It was the 70s that we were allowed to have our own bank account without a man like signing it off. We've been allowed to have our own money and spend it however we want, right? And allowed to have a career and things like that. And my God, how far we've come in 50, 60 years, like probably sort of since obviously the war was a big one that changed that and we started to work and everything. But before that, we was completely dependent on men. So I just feel like we're all groundbreakers. Like we are all amazing. Anyone and any woman particularly who is brave enough to start their own business is a flipping groundbreaker. Like we are breaking new ground here. And like, most of us, our mums probably didn't have their own business. Our grands probably didn't even work, or more or less. Like you don't have to go very far back to see that. And it just means that we don't have those role models. We didn't grow up with those role models, around being an entrepreneur, like anything like that. We just didn't have those role models. So I think seeking out role models can really help as well, of just like following people that are making a lot, women that are making money, that are doing what they love, that are making money, that are successful, and things like that. And I just, I love finding those role models and really looking for them and really appreciating them, whether it's an authentic leader like, the New Zealand Prime Minister that resigned recently, but the, what's her name, Jacinda Ardern, this just authentic leader who was vulnerable and, it's just like, you have to seek out those role models. I think you have to surround yourself by other women in business, really helpful. I know we met through networking. I think networking is really powerful to just, because I think when we network a lot, you then just go, but that's the norm. Like, I meet loads of women all the time who've got their own business, and that is just the norm for us now. But you have to step out and go, but that's not the norm. I think it's something like, I did some research and wrote a post about it a few weeks ago. I think it was like maybe about 15% self-employed in the country. So then if you think most of those are probably men, I mean, quite a lot of women are self-employed just because of the flexibility. But it's like, it's not very many people. You know, it's not a lot of, it is a lot of my friends and a lot of people that I know. But I know for people who work and employed roles, they probably don't know very many self-employed people.
Yeah. Do you know it's so funny that you're saying this. I say it's so funny. It's aligned because a post I did last week, I think it was, or the week before, was about the fact that it's still a man's world.
Yeah.
It is. It's still a man's world because I mean I mentioned it in my Instagram stories this morning actually, that the world is created for a man's cycle, which is a 24-hour cycle. Yeah. Whereas women work on a monthly cycle due to the very fact that we have monthly cycles. So we have peaks and troughs in our hormones and energy levels, and we can't run our businesses and our lives on a 24-hour cycle. We can't, because that's not how we're made. Yet everything out there in the world is made for a 24-hour cycle, and it's something that I'm kind of very, very conscious about right now, is the fact that the women that I'm going to be working with, we're going to be working with their cycle to ensure that what they're creating is being created at a time when they're feeling creative.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what you said there, completely aligned.
I do completely, and I'm not having cycles anymore, and I do feel a bit set adrift because I'm a bit like, I think I know where I am. Like I used to put my cycles in my calendar so that I would know if I was going to run a webinar or like do an event or, you know, something like that. I would put it in when I'm in my summer because I know that I've got the more energy and, you know, all of that. And then when I was more wintry, that would be better for like creating and blogs and, you know, this and that. And it can be really, really helpful. And even if you don't, you know, do it in quite that way, I just think being really tuned in to yourself and how you feel and what flows, and to try and do what flows rather than what's on the to-do list. You know, which, you know, we have to find that balance because that's life and that's productivity, and, you know, sometimes things have got to get done. But even in a day, you know, energy can change and shift. To work with that as best we can, because I think we then do get the most out of ourselves when we're not pushing water uphill with a fork. Do you know what I mean? It's like what's easy. Do you know what I mean? You've got to try and do what feels easier in the moment, as much as you can. Yeah, completely. I think we went on a right tangent after what my question was. But that's perfect because it obviously needed to be said right on this podcast. So it is what it is. It is what it is. So it sounds like you had a very similar journey to me, growing up. So we were on the poverty-ish line, working class kind of scenario. I didn't go on my first flight until I was 17. First flight ever was with friends to Florida, you know. Jump right in there with a 13-hour flight. I went to Lanzarote. But yeah, so I mean, the journey from where you were to where you are now just sounds so similar to mine. So we must be kindred spirits in there somewhere. Definitely. So where you are now, what you're creating, I mean, literally you had a breakthrough just, what, 4 or 5 months ago in your money mindset. So like you've said, it's a constant evolution of learning, awareness, and dealing with the next thing that goes, oh, let's deal with this now, shall we? What would you say were your biggest takeaways from everything that you've done
if a lady is listening here now and is at this point where they're like, I just can't do this anymore, or they're like, this lack of income is literally going to kill me soon, what would your biggest bits of advice be for those women right now?
You know what, I'm not going to say don't give up, because I think sometimes we need to do something else. And if we don't feel fundamentally safe and secure, you know, we're talking base chakra, if that's wobbly, it's going to be really hard to create anything from there. So I think whatever you can do to feel safe and secure in the world, whether that's working with a coach or doing some tapping. I mean, there's loads of free tapping videos. They can be really useful, you know, things like that. But working with a coach, obviously, would be really helpful, I'm sure, for most people. But really just, yeah, really tuning into like what is important. But I mean, I still probably weekly think, oh, I'm just going to give it all up and go and get a job. It's too hard. Right. And it's like, and I love my business and I don't want to give it up, and I'm probably unemployable anyway. But the thought still comes into my head now and again. Right. It still does. And I just think that's part of the entrepreneurial journey. And the sooner that you can face your business journey as this is a journey of ups and downs. It's a bit of a roller coaster. It's the nature of the beast. It just is the way it is, right? And for some people, they make it look easy, but don't buy in to what you see on social media as actual reality, because most of the time it's not. The people that are like, I did 6 figures in 5 minutes, blah blah. It's mostly bollocks. It's mostly not true. So. And I remember this quote, I think it's from Tony Robbins from probably 20 years ago. And it's something like, don't compare your insides with someone else's outsides.
Oh, I love that.
I think that's so powerful. And it's really stayed with me, because anybody can paint a picture of how well they're doing. And we all do it to an extent on social media. And then, of course, we compare that to what we feel inside, and we're always going to come off worse, right? Because the inside is messy. It's messy in there, and I don't think there's another way of doing it. I think it just is messy. So I think if you're going to be in business, get a strategy. Make sure you get some help with your business or mindset, and yeah, make mindset and personal growth and whatever, energetics, inner work, blocks, whatever you want to call it, make that a priority as well. You know, even if it's just a gratitude practice to start with, you know, there's so many things that you can do. But yeah, making sure that you are building that resilience for those peaks and troughs, because there's things you can do to iron them out a bit, but they're kind of going to happen. That's just the nature of the beast, of being in business, and it's not for everyone, and that's okay. If you gave it a go and you're realizing that actually I just don't like that up and down, up and down, up and down, it makes me feel really wobbly, it's okay not to do it, right? It like that's just a decision. It's got to be right for you, because yeah, and just to know that that is the way it is, for most, you know, for 99% of people. So yeah, you've got to do what's right for you, and if that isn't having a business, that's okay as well. And don't beat yourself up about it. You tried. That's all you can do. At least you did, and you'll never have that regret of should I have tried, right? I know plenty of people that have been in my network that have stopped having a business and went and got a job instead, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know.
I love that so much. I mean, I think the bit you pointed on there is to not beat yourself up. I mean, I think that comes into it when you do have those days where you're like, oh, I just want to give up. And it's not about then beating yourself up about the fact that you've thought that thought. Yeah. It's about getting curious as to why am I thinking that thought? What is going on around me or inside me right now that's making me think that thought? Can I do anything about it? If you can't, then just let it flow through, because you can't change things that you're not in control of, I think is the